University of Virginia Center for Politics founder and director Larry Sabato joins us this morning. Larry, our privilege to have you with us. Talk about some of those memories.
Well, actually, the first time I ever focused on Jimmy Carter was something that no one has mentioned. I can't believe it. He was introduced to a national audience, not as governor of Georgia, because most people don't follow politics and government except in their own states. He was on What's My Line, which was a famous TV quiz show from the 1950s through the 1970s, and not a single one of the panelists had a clue who he was. But a national audience got exposure to him, and he wasn't known nationally then. But a few years later, he was president of the United States. You mentioned my class. I've got a kind of a funny anecdote about that. He was a good teacher. He was a good lecturer, and he did this in a lot of universities and colleges around the country, and particularly in Emory University, which was right there close to where he was living. And he fascinated the students and the faculty with his back and forth. He gave completely honest answers. He even answered very personal and sometimes hurtful questions. He was remarkable, but he came into this class and as an auditorium that seated 350, and somehow 700 had managed to stuff themselves in there, much to the chagrin of the fire marshal and the Secret Service. And they just erupted, and they wouldn't stop applauding and cheering. He loved it. And every single time I had occasion to speak with him in person or on the telephone, from then on, the very first thing he mentioned was that class. I think it boosted him at a time in 1986 when he was not doing well politically and he was not being treated well. And Ronald Reagan, his opponent, had just been reelected in a 49-state landslide.
How do you, I mean, this is this question for Larry, the political scientist and study of history, but how do we think of Carter relative to the Democratic Party of today? Where would he fit in? Because it strikes me that he was a Bernie Sanders supporter, not Hillary Clinton. Bernie Sanders, of course, self-described Democratic socialist. He also supported Obama over Hillary in 1992. So I'm just curious what your view is on that.
Well, despite what you're hearing and seeing now, there was a somewhat strained relationship between the Clintons and the Carters, or particularly former President Carter, stemming from 1980 when Carter lost in a landslide to Ronald Reagan. Well, guess who was one of the victims? Governor Bill Clinton of Arkansas, who was swept out of office after just 1 2-year term. Now, Clinton came back in 1982, but he never forgave. Clinton never really got over the fact that Carter had helped to defeat him for re-election. Look, where does he fit? It's really interesting. When Carter came in, he came in as a new kind of Democrat. That is, it was right after the 49-state defeat for George McGovern in 1972 and Richard Nixon's re-election and Hubert Humphrey's defeat in 1968. And Carter said, we have to do something different. We have to be more moderate. We have to be worried about the budget. And sure enough, it worked. It worked. It was enough to barely defeat President Gerald Ford. So I think in a way, Democrats could learn something right now. They can't simply go on as they were because the public rejected them and rejected them for a president who is enormously controversial, Donald Trump. They need to learn from cases like Carter, where Carter came out of nowhere and managed to win against a moderate Republican. Gerald Ford was a moderate. And I think it's appropriate to note Carter and Ford became good friends and worked on a number of projects in the national interest together. That's the way our politics used to be. It isn't that way anymore.